Stem cells is where we're going to start this discussion. And what you're looking at under Exhibit A on this page on your screen are pure stem cells in the form of what is called Wharton's jelly. Now, stem cells represent the root of everything. They can be extracted, cultured, and induced to differentiate into mature cells, such as like neurons, organs, all kinds of stuff. And there was a very hot debate about stem cells during the Bush administration. Okay. What they failed to do was go into detail about what these stem cells actually were, what this was all about. You see, stem cells are present only in a few places in the human body. They're actually pretty rare. And there is a peculiar substance called Wharton's jelly. And that is one place in the body where you can find stem cells. And this is going to be the topic of our live show tonight. Now, Wharton's jelly is only found in the umbilical cord of a child and the watery fluid of the interior eye. Now, think about that for a second. The fact that that substance, Wharton's jelly, which is what you're looking at under Exhibit A, is found only in these two places in the body means something. And we're going to get down to the physiology of Wharton's jelly and how that ties in to this biblical discovery. Now, if you're new to the show, put aside any misconception, judgment, because we're going to go places your mind has never gone before. When we're done tonight, I'm convinced that you're going to be convinced that the umbilical Wharton's jelly is an analogy for the biblical manna mentioned in the Bible, fed to the remnant seed. Now, if you think of stem cells, they are like the seed. From them, other things can grow. And it's interesting because in the Bible, they talk about the seed during the Exodus. And they say that the manna is actually like white coriander seed. Now, what is coriander seed? Well, in America, Americans eat a lot of Mexican food. And in Mexican food, they put cilantro, which is, it looks like parsley almost, but it's a little bit different. It's got like a lemony taste to it. And they'll cut up this small bush. It's like a garnish of sorts. And they'll put this in salsas and stuff and put it on tacos. Okay. This is very, very popular in America. Cilantro is the Mexican name for this parsley-like thing. And then the seeds come off of it. The seeds come off of this, and that's coriander seed. And you can also crush those up and use those to season things. The Bible tells us that the coriander seed is what the manna looked like. Now, I'm going to show you some pictures of the coriander seed. And you better be sitting down because this information is mind-shattering. Not only does the word coriander have cor in it, the first three letters of the umbilical cord, but the color of the Wharton's jelly, which fills the umbilical cord to protect the arteries and veins, is the same color as coriander. Look at this. This is the umbilical cord. I want you to look at the colors. The purplish, yellowish, white. The purplish, yellowish, white. And now I want you to look at images of coriander. The purplish, yellowish, white. Now, why are we talking about coriander seed? Well, not only does the Bible mention manna as being the color of coriander seed, and we just looked at this lavender color that matches up with the Wharton's jelly, but Wharton's jelly is made up of hyaluronic acid. Now, this is where things go off the rails because And there was this company that was talking about injecting this hyaluronic acid into people's knees to help them with osteoarthritis. Okay. They had this natural hyaluronic acid because this is what's in the synovial fluid between your knees. And I'm like, wow, it's natural. Where did they get this hyaluronic acid that's natural? Believe it or not, they harvested it from chicken combs. This is why I told you you need to be sitting down, because the synchronicities in this show are going to blow you away, and how we arrived at this point of this amazing discovery. Now, what is the chicken comb? The chicken comb is the top of their head. And apparently, it's got this hyaluronic acid in it. And so they got this hyaluronic acid inside this chicken comb. And apparently, the same substance is in the Wharton's jelly. Now, the reason why they call it Wharton's jelly is because there's a guy named Wharton who discovered it. That's all. Don't worry about the name. Think of this as the MANNA. Basically, in these injections into people's knees to help them with osteoarthritis, it actually, once the substance was in their knee, it actually almost reversed the effects of the osteoarthritis, helping everything to reanimate it almost. And this hyaluronic acid, the reason why we're talking about the coriander seed, and this is unbelievable, because the coriander seed actually helps your skin produce hyaluronic acid. So now we have a direct link between the coriander seed, the MANNA, which is the color of coriander, the cord, umbilical cord, coriander, and the Wharton's jelly. And you can't make any of this up. Now, people are probably wondering, well, how did you even get to this point? How has pregnancy even come close to what is going on? And we're going to do a review. We did a video a couple days ago about the Israelites in the wilderness. And we began to recognize these analogies between the Exodus and pregnancy. And that's what we're going to go over right now. Now that you let this sink in regarding the Wharton's jelly. Now, when I found out this information, I was blown away. But here is the Exodus. On the left, you see the Nile Delta. And the Israelites were in bondage right in here. And through the Exodus, it represented what seemed to be like pregnancy. Now, this is the image of the child in the womb. Now, no matter how you turn this, you see the child in the womb. This is the actual topography of the Sinai Peninsula, the very land through which the Israelites wandered for 40 years. Do you think it's an accident that the time that the child is in the womb is 40 weeks? Is that an accident? In the watery matrix? And do you think it's an accident that Noah was in the flood, the watery matrix, for 40 days and 40 nights it rained? Or that Christ was fasting in the watery matrix for 40 days? He wasn't in the water, but it's a symbol, it's an analogy, a parable of it. Do you think it's an accident that Jonah was in the belly of the whale in the watery matrix, and that he prophesied for 40 days to Nineveh? Do you think it's an accident that Moses was on the mountain for 40 days? No. And this is what religion has overlooked. Because if you start connecting these dots and tie all this into pregnancy, a picture emerges. And that is that the Most High included in what he told people to do, people who obeyed him throughout the millennia, He included in that will of obedience a chance to become part of things that would not be discovered for 2,000 to 4,000 years. And that to me is mind-shattering, and this is why I titled this video, The Most Important Biblical Discovery in Human History. Now, this is the path of the Exodus. Now, there are many scholars out there guessing at the path of the Exodus. This is only one scenario, but I argue that this is the path. And the reason why it is because it fits the narrative of pregnancy. Now, I showed you this baby in the topography. Different topographical maps won't show it. This is what lies beneath the sands. So if you were to go on Google Earth, you're not going to see this. This is the actual topography with the sand shed away. And this is what the mountains look like underneath the sand. Okay? And so you're not going to see it on this map, and you're not going to see it in Google Earth. But we're going to follow the route of the Exodus. And now in the video that I did, we went backwards because everything is in reverse. Now we're going to go forwards. Now, if you look here, so this is the end point. Starts at Ammon. Don't you think that's interesting? Works backwards. Here's the fiery serpents. Okay? And this represents the insemination. Copper, the blue blood, being mixed together. This is what the serpent did. This is why we all turn into beasts. Our bodies were changed. This is my opinion. You're not going to learn this stuff in the mainstream Christianity. But my opinion is this was part of the sin in the garden. This is where conception occurred. The beast bodies. Pregnancy was ensuing. This represents this leg here represents the first 20 weeks of pregnancy. And before you hit the 20th week, these are the quail. This is where they had quail. Now, they had quail in a couple different parts. They had quail back here and they had quail here. But I believe the quail represents the fluttering of the child in the womb. And then you get to Mount Sinai. That's the 20th week, the exact halfway point of pregnancy. This is where the 10 Commandments occurred on Mount Sinai. This is Mount Sinai here, or could be. See, this is why I'm telling you, this model of the Exodus matches pregnancy. There are many models. People don't even know where Mount Sinai really is, but I think all that's disinformation to make people confused. But the truth will reveal itself. Now, remember, the 10 Commandments were made twice. The first time Moses broke them on the ground. So there was actually 20 commandments altogether. There were duplicates. But think about this. Remember, the twins, Cain and Abel. We've been telling you guys, Cain was of a different bloodline than Abel. So they were the twins from different fathers. Instead of brothers from other mothers, they were brothers from other fathers. This is real. It's called superfecundation. It happens actually quite frequently. So here we have the 10 Commandments twice. That's 20. And this is the 20th week in pregnancy. And notice the route looks like a pregnant belly with the child inside. This is where the child will be located in that topographical map that we saw. It even shows the placenta, which looks like a retina, by the way. Remember, Wharton's jelly is found only in the umbilical cord and the eye. So you have the retina. And the placenta surrounding the child here in this river system. And it goes on because after that, they're in the desert of sin. Remember, sin entered the world. When you're born into sin. Here, I believe, is the Red Sea crossing. The Red Sea being parted is when the woman's water breaks. First, the water comes out, then the blood parted. The cervix dilates, and a remnant, which was the Israelites, is delivered into bondage into Egypt. Now, once you get into Egypt, you get to the headdress, which is the Sphinx. And when you're born into Egypt. And I've got some other images here we're going to show, but I'm going to finish this thought here. You're born in Egypt into the headdress, which is an address. And remember, God passed over those who had their doorpost marked with the blood of the Lamb. When you look at images of the U.S. Postal Service logo and you rotate it, you see the posts and lintel, which is the two side posts of the door and the top going over the top. And that is in the logo of the United States Post Office. And that's what it is. It's your address, your headdress. This is how they control you. Everybody has to have an address. When I came to France, I had to have an address. Why? Because I'm driving down the street and a radar hits me. They need a place to send the ticket to, right? Everybody has to have a physical address, a headdress, the Sphinx, so that you're in bondage to Egypt. And so this is what happens when you're born into sin. So this whole thing is a giant analogy that really happened. Now, here's the topographical map. Again, this is with the sand shed away. And here you begin to see other things. Now that you know this is about pregnancy, the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba look like a woman's legs spread out, ready to give birth. But also, the Nile looks like a woman's legs spread out giving birth. A delta looks like that. It looks like afterbirth. Some people told me this looks like opposite. So below and above, as above, so below. So you have God's holy seed, the Exodus out here in Sinai. And then opposed to that, you have Egypt, bondage, slavery. You're rescued by Christ, by belief in him. So you have a juxtaposition here. You have opposite. He's crouching at the door, ready to attack the child. See his long body here, the spine. People were noticing. I discussed this with Mark. Mark and I were talking about this. So you have this, and so you have this juxtaposition. You have the serpent crouching at the door. Again, these are topographical maps with the sand actually taken away, stripped away from the landscape. Now, the sand means something, okay? And then you start to wonder, did they, was this whole region weather modified to create a desert to obscure all of these images? You know, you begin to wonder these things, right? So I put together this photo. This is the woman's legs outstretched, ready to give birth. There's the baby, the serpent crouching at the door. And again, you have this juxtaposition, the dark side and the light side. Now, close this. Jesus actually returned to Egypt. Now, this is fascinating. Wait, first of all, let's look at this one first. Okay, the post and lintel that had to be marked. with the blood of the lamb, so that the angel would pass over. This was to not kill the firstborn. Okay, this firstborn theme connects Jesus to the Old Testament. There's a lot of things that connect Jesus to the Old Testament. And there's a certain religious group out there that seeks to obscure that. They don't want you to make the connection between Jesus, the Old Testament, and the New Testament. They want to obscure that. So Jesus had to return to Egypt. There's a reason why he returned to Egypt. We're going to look at the path that he took, or might have taken, because the Bible does not say. But first, I wanted to talk to you about the post and lintel. This is the post and lintel, and it's Stonehenge too. So now Stonehenge's meaning gives a whole new meaning, because it's surrounded by headdresses in a circle, locking people into a magic satanic circle. Okay, there's a Mr. Obama, right? So now you begin to understand, and for everything that God does, it is good. There's an evil counterpart. So you can imagine if God had you postmark your post and lintel in order to be passed over with the blood of a lamb, you can imagine the kind of sacrifices that were going on at Stonehenge from the dark side version, and all the blood that might have been sprinkled on these posts and lintels over the millennia. But look at this, Bethlehem. Did anyone think to connect the fact that Bethlehem means house of meat or house of bread? I mean, this is unbelievable. These are our flesh suits. This is where Jesus was born. He was born into a meat suit, so that he could crucify the beast and we could all be saved through belief in him. Mark caught that one. So here's the journey that Jesus may have gone through to get here, to get back to Egypt. Why would he go back to Egypt? Well, this is crazy. Born in Bethlehem. Here's the possible route. Where did he go? Remember, the baby is right here. This is where the baby is that we found in the topography, sitting in the womb, between the woman's legs here. And look at this, pharma, like big pharma. These are ancient cities. Migdal, that's like Midol. When a woman has cramps, it's an American. It's like I think it's like a Tylenol. It's like a safe Tylenol for women with menstrual cramps. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Now, these might be associations that you may or may not agree with, but once these things start to open up, you wonder, did they name Midol after Migdal? I mean, because that's a weird word, Midol. I mean, that's not a word you'd think you would name a medication for a woman with menstrual cramps, but yet here's a city called Midol. Pharma, big pharma. So Jesus had to go back into the belly of the beast. He had to go back into Egypt to recreate his sacrifice. Why? So that we could open it up right now with our very eyes, see it for what it is, link it all together, and prove God. Not that God needs any proof, but there are left brain thinkers out there, science thinkers, who this is the kind of information, this is the only information that would ever convince them, because they're shut off from God, because they need a logical and rational explanation for everything. This is crazy. So this is Jesus' route back into Egypt. So that's what I believe that the manna is, symbolically anyway. Not that actual Wharton's jelly fell out of heaven, but remember, God was providing the manna. He was through the silver cord. The narrow gate to his people as they were walking through the wilderness in the belly. Look at this, even almost shaped like a womb. It's got a roundish thing to it. Ooh, look, and here's the umbilical. You can almost see the umbilical cord here coming down into the womb and the child inside here. This is fascinating. And God provided this manna, the Wharton's jelly, because it's all they really needed. They didn't need the meat. They didn't need the quail. They're complaining they wanted to be back in Egypt. And they were fasting, which is what a child does in the womb. Let's all get down to the bottom of this. When you're in the womb, you're not eating solid foods, you're fasting. Just like Jesus fasted for 40 days, he was recreating what was happening in the Old Testament. There's so many links back to the Old Testament, but they've all been lost, obscured, occulted. And then when people like me find it, oh, you're agnostic. No, we just love God so much, we keep digging because we know we've been lied to. Now, here's the amazing thing. The blood of the lamb. This is why they sacrificed the lamb, because it was tying Jesus back in. He was the lamb sacrifice, the final lamb sacrifice. Okay, there's lots of things tying Jesus back to the Old Testament. The fact that his side was pierced and blood and water came out. That was the parting of the Red Sea. Red Sea, hello, red, water, blood and water, side pierced, narrow gate, splitting of the sea. It's all there. Jesus was in the wilderness. And he told them that once they put it in this pot, that it would basically be preserved until the end of time and be given out to his followers. He said, fill an omer and keep it for your generations, that they may see the bread wherewith I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a pot and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it before the Lord to keep for your generations. And the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years, until they came to the land inhabited. And here in Hebrews, the New Testament, the manna is talked about in the golden pot, which had the golden censer and the ark of the covenant overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, and Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. And the last time in the Bible the manna is mentioned is in the book of Revelation. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. Take care and be safe, you guys.